Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizzano, and you are listening to another episode of the world famous Universal Love, the best podcast in one, two, three galaxies. And ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call the show Online Marketing Moves. And we are coming to you live today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important show for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, go and download every episode we got. Download all the episodes we got. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, stop playing around with Online Marketing Moves. We are the best podcast. Listen, we are the best podcast on the planet. Okay, Joe Rogan, you know what? Kick his ass. Who else? Who else has a podcast? Who's back there with the podcast? We kick all their asses. Okay, so go ahead and download Online Marketing Moves and stop playing around. Stop playing games. Let's go. Let's learn about marketing in a very unconventional way. Stop messing around with other people telling you the same old crap. Go to Facebook. Go to Facebook and find you. Go to Facebook and get a herd and let me follow up behind everybody else and talk like everybody else. You want to listen to that crap, or you want to sit here and be a part of Online Marketing Moves? Ladies and gentlemen, stop messing around. Go download all the episodes. Go to YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Download all the episodes wherever you get podcasts. Go to Spotify. Find us on Spotify. Download it there. Go to TonyRizzano.net / podcast. We have all the podcasts there. Wherever you can find podcasts, find Online Marketing Moves, ladies and gentlemen. And let's stop messing around, because we are the best podcast on the planet. Okay, we will talk about marketing, we will talk about entrepreneurship, we will talk about business in a very unconventional way, from a very different viewpoint. We're not going to do the same cookie cutter. And then I didn't know if this was going to work. Then I tried it. One thing I hate. One thing that annoys the teetotal, one thing that annoys me is that there's nothing wrong with people like. Okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Like, I used to watch wrestling, and I probably mentioned this in a podcast a long time ago. But I remember The Rock. The Rock has crafted this story. It's a very cute story, but it's a lot of BS. Okay, The Rock has crafted a story about how he only had $7 in his pocket, and he was struggling, and he didn't know what he's gonna do with his life. All of a sudden, good God Almighty, he got the idea to become a wrestler. The Rock, he never thought that he would be a wrestler. His daddy was a wrestler. His grandpa was a wrestler. His whole family is in the wrestling business. And so how is this guy over here crafting this nonsensical story? And the reason why is because he can. When you tell a story so much, you start to believe your own crap sometimes. Okay. I remember one time Howard Stern, he said, I'm going to just start. Michael Jackson was the king of pop. And so Michael Jackson was the king of pop. They would call him the king of pop. For those of you that don't know, you kids, anybody younger than me, if you're under the age let me think. Let's see. Thriller came out 1983, 1984, and I remember in the 80s, Michael Jackson, he was big. Okay? So if you're under the age of 40, if you're probably 35 or younger, you might not, you know Michael Jackson, but you might not know the, because sometimes, and it doesn't matter. It's not like a hey, you should have been there. But it's like, sometimes you don't understand the impact that somebody has when you're actually watching it. It's like this. Whenever somebody talks to me about basketball and they're younger, I always know they're kind of younger, because they will say, oh man, LeBron James, he's better than Michael Jordan. It's like, have did you see Michael Jordan play? And they go, oh, I see YouTube clips. It's like, you know, now you shouldn't compare eras because athletes, it's way different. But what I'm telling you is, in the '80s, Michael Jackson was people older than me. They like, oh, Beatlemania. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I like some of the Beatles music, but I don't understand the phenomenon. And so it's the same as Michael Jackson. I remember when I was a kid, Michael Jackson, they would say, hey, 7:37. I remember when they did Remember the Time, and they interrupted a show. And they was like, Remember the Time, and they had Magic Johnson, they had Eddie Murphy, they had Iman, they had all these celebrities in this video. And it was a great video, and I just remember that. So Michael Jackson was a big phenomenon. But what I'm saying, well, I say all that. I went all the way around the world to come back and tell you that people craft these stories, and Howard Stern, he was like, hey, Michael Jackson, they call him the king of pop, and so he started calling himself the king of all media. And I remember he just started saying it, he started saying it, and started saying it, and now 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, however long it's been since Howard Stern said that, they still call him the king of all media, even though he is on satellite, even though he is a whole different cat now than what he was back then. Uh, people still refer to him as the king of all media. So, if you say something, long enough, people actually start to believe it. And so I always laugh when I hear The Rock say, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I had $7 in my pocket. It's like, bro, you had a lottery ticket in your back pocket because your dad is Rocky. Your dad was Rocky Soulman Johnson. Your dad was the first, like one of the first African American tag team champions in the WWE, WWF at the time. So it's like, what are you talking about? And so, you can craft a story how you want. You can craft a story. You can slice it, dice it, however which way you want to. Okay. Now I know a lot of times people love these days, especially like, I don't know, black people. Well, I live in America, so I say black people. Black people in America, especially the celebrities, not normal, not people that I talk to on a regular basis, but you see a lot of celebrities. They love to talk about the '60s, the '70s, like they're about to get lynched or something like that. It's very weird, but the craft of the story, it's a BS story because celebrities, especially if you're like a Denzel, Samuel Jackson, a Will Smith, a Tom Cruise, certain people, when you get to a certain status, there is no, nobody's gonna stop Will Smith and be like, I saw this black guy. No, that's Will Smith. Okay? Nobody's gonna stop uh Denzel. Nobody's gonna stop him and say, excuse me, black man, but what are you doing? They're gonna say, oh my God, Denzel Washington, how are you? Okay? And so a lot of times, a lot of people, they craft these stories and a lot of them are BS. And now for you, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to creating a brand, creating a website, doing interviews, you want to learn how to tell a story, and you want to land on that story each and every time. If you go around, it doesn't matter. It's like being a comedian. Comedians, they go around, they go to different places, go to different comedy shows, they talk about their story. They tell jokes, and they when and the joke telling it's a story. Okay, and so they're crafting this story. And so eventually, a lot of the times, the bigger name comedians, they do all this and they say, hey, I'm going to film this I am going to film this comedy. This is going to be a comedy special. I've been working on this for the last year. I'm going to film this comedy special, and then I'm going to put it out on HBO or the Netflix or the whatever. But the thing they are doing the whole time is they're crafting the story. They're telling the same jokes over and over and over. Some jokes hit, some jokes don't. And then they take their best material. I ain't telling you nothing you don't know. They take their best material, craft it into a nice story. And they tell a story, Cat Williams, Chris Rock, Dane Cook, anybody, any comedian, they do that. And so for you, you have to do that. You want to. I remember I listened to this audiobook by the great Zig Ziglar. Zig from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Okay? And Zig went around and Zig crafted his stories and he told his stories over and over and over and over. He said, one thing he would say is, I was a salesman. Yeah, I sold my clothes, I sold my furniture, I sold my TV, I sold everything, that I own. And Zig, if you ever listen to one or two of his books, you hear Zig with the stories. But the stories are very entertaining because he tells them in a very entertaining way because he has done this over and over. He has done the process over and over and over. And listen, storytelling is the way to go. The Bible is all about. The Bible has a lot of stories, a lot of parables. The whale swallowed Jonah. Okay, for 3 days, Jonah was he was in the belly of the fish. Huh? Why? Because the ship started rocking. The water started coming in, and they was like, "We need somebody. Maybe we need to get this evil spirit off the boat." And Jonah said, "I'll get off the boat." He got off the boat. The wind calmed down. Jonah sat in the mouth of the whale. Finally, the whale said, "Jonah, I had enough of you. Spit." And boom. And so, ladies and gents, you want to tell a story. I don't care if when you become a speaker, I heard Dan Kennedy when he talks. Dan Kennedy, one thing that he does that's very good, is very smooth. It's very smooth. He talks and he brings up stuff that he's worked on, or stuff that he owns, or stuff that he can sell. He'll go, "Oh, in my book, leaders and prophets or whatever." And then he'll bring up something that was in one of his books, and he is crafting a story because eventually you're going to be like, okay, because eventually when you hear Dan Kennedy talk, at the end of the day, he's very good at talking. He's very good. He's a very good marketer. He's a very good salesman. And so at the end of the time, when you hear him talk, you're gonna go, okay, well, let me see these books that Mr. Kennedy has, and then you're gonna say, oh, I would like to check one out, and then you'll realize, oh, this guy is good. This guy knows his stuff, and so he tells such a good story. You're like, I want to hear more from him, and that's what you want in your business. I don't care if you're a spy man. I don't care if you sell guitars, guitars. I don't care where you are, what you do. You want to be able to craft an excellent story. Now, and I know I've said this on the pod before, the podcast before. You ain't gotta lie. Listen, I'm from Atlanta now, home of the scammer. You ain't gotta be a scammer. You ain't got to be scheming and scamming to get your story down pat. Tell a story. A lot of times, as I told you earlier, as an African American, a lot of people love to tell you know, they act like they came from the muddy mud. Or I started off with nothing. Nobody gave me nothing. It was a struggle. Blah blah blah. Their parents put them in college, but let them tell her, "Oh no, I ain't had nobody to put me in college." Blah 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 blah. It's okay to start from second base. It's okay to start from third base. Whatever you got to do. But in the meantime, doesn't matter if you own a business. Doesn't matter if you work somewhere. You want to create a story for yourself. You want to create a story for your life. You be able to tell that story in a succinct, calm way, rational way. And so that way, you tell the story People start to like it more and more, and then you can add on to the story. You can add on to more stories. You can tell more stories. You can do more speaking arrangements. Because at the end of the day, you want to make the most money you can. And how can you make the most money? The more you market yourself, the better you market yourself, ladies and gentlemen. We all know this. The more you're able to market yourself, the more you're able to put out in the universe that, hey, I am good at what I do. I am great at what I do. And you can market yourself that way, you will be better off for it. You don't even have to be the greatest. As long as you learn to market yourself, ladies and gentlemen, you will always be able to create income for yourself. Now, that is the key. Learn to market yourself. I don't care if it's online, offline, postcards, notebooks. You got to write people. You got to call people. You got to show up on people's doorstep, knock on the door. Go after it. Go after it. Go after it. Work on your story. Tell your story. You know, I've gotten 2 or 3 letters this week from people, and they write this thing. They write a press kit for certain people. They say, hey, this guy would be a great fit on your show. And so you always want to be able to tell a story. The more you are able to tell a story, the better off you will be. It's just like the other day I saw LeBron James got his son on the Lakers, and now they're going to be the first father and son to play in the NBA together. LeBron wanted to craft another story in his chapter and his legacy that he has built. So this time he wanted to work with his son. And so he is now the first father and son to be in the NBA. And they had King Griffey sitting out there on the sidelines, which is bananas. And the reason why I say it's bananas is because LeBron got his son on the Lakers. His son's the great athlete. I seen his son at UCLA, USC, one of them California teams. I saw him there for a game. He was a little gun shy, you know. Yeah, he was a little gun shy, but you know it worked out. But the thing about the thing about LeBron and his son is the difference between him and King Griffey is, of course, King Griffey was better than his dad. His dad's an excellent baseball player. King Griffey's one of the all-time greats. And King Griffey was like the #1 draft pick. So it's a little bit different. And King Griffey Sr. can still play. But to each their own. This is the story that LeBron wanted to craft. This is the story that he has crafted. This is the story that he will tell. He will be the first. One day somebody else will come along and be like, I want to play with my son too. And then they would do that. And they would be like, we are just like the James family. And LeBron and his son will be sitting in the audience, you know, in the next 20 years from now. 20 years from now, I'll be somewhere. Nah, I won't be watching the game, but, you know, we'll all be somewhere in 20 years when we see LeBron and his son sitting there with whoever and their son as the second father and son. But that's the story that LeBron wanted to craft. That's the story that he got, because the Lakers are not going to be that good probably. So, you know, in order to keep the spotlight on the Lakers, they're like, let's do some gimmicks tonight. Okay. But always work on your story. Always tell your story. Don't be ashamed. You know, don't be ashamed if you start off on third base. Don't be ashamed of that. Start off on second base. Don't be ashamed of that. You start off on the muddy mud. Don't worry about it. People love that. People love an underdog story. That's why people love Rocky. They love Rudy. They love underdogs until you become the superstar. Ask Tom Brady, for example. People love Thomas Edward Patrick Brady when he was on the bench at the Patriots. He finally got put in. He won the first Super Bowl. Everybody was like, yeah, Tom Brady, you did it. But then they started winning more and more. And now 6, 7 Super Bowls later, people can't stand Tom Brady. But that's how it is when you start to win. And so the better you tell your story, the better ability you have to win the game. So ladies and gentlemen, get out there, craft your story. Notice I didn't say a lie. I said craft your story. You know, we all embellish. You know, everybody embellishes a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, hey, I'm 6'3", I'm 6'1" instead of 5'11". Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember all that, and that will be it. And we will be back on Monday with an all new episode of Online Market Moves. As I said earlier, ladies and gents, if you haven't already, go download all 800 and something episodes. We are coming to you live. You can always, if you want to get on the email, you can go to TonyRizzano.net. At TonyRizzano.net, the website is a work in progress, so bear with me. But you can always go up there, look around. It's not much to look at, but you can look for the time being, and then that way we can get ready for the emails that you're going to sign up for. Okay? But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. We will be back on Monday with the all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Rizzano. Thank you for listening. God bless each and every one of you. And as always, everybody, peace.